something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, wasn't quite sure what happened there. It all got out of sync a little bit. How are you, folks? Hope you've had a pretty reasonable sort of a Tuesday. If you're lucky enough to be having Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday off this week to coincide with the Easter Anzac Day long weekends, then I guess you're enjoying a decent sort of a break. Good luck to you. There was a heap of people driving around through the hills today, so I gather there's quite a few people on holidays. I guess school holidays are still happening, and we did finally get some decent bloody weather today. So, yeah, it's been nice. Who was first in tonight? G'day, Spaz first in. And hope you're doing well, mate. Got your message there before. I don't know if you've sent anything back. I've been a bit busy. Wild Aussie Woman. Love the artwork. Is that meant to be me? I gather you're talking about the cartoon artwork, Wild Aussie Woman. And yes, I can assure you it is meant to be me. This one. That is meant to be me. I don't know, put my head over here a little bit. There goes, that help? Still going to get a bit further. And of course, then there's this one that I made up earlier in line with tonight's theme. The AI decided to put me in like that in the James Bond position. But of course, that is in theme with tonight's show. And what is tonight's show all about? Well, we've had so many people in the freedom movement be called all sorts of different names, but infiltrator is a name or a word that is thrown around quite a lot. And quite often it's thrown around with absolutely no proof whatsoever. There is one woman that I have become reasonably acquainted with over the last little while, and she has suffered under the slings and arrows of the accusations of being not just an infiltrator, but also being a spy, if you like, and not just a playful kind of spy for, you know, some little secret society. No, she's been accused of being a real spy. So being a real spy, I figured she needed her own intro. Dum, dum, dum. Well, here she is to answer these questions and so many more in person, standing for the Heart Party in the ACT, and you'll find her in the lower house. You'll be able to tick just one of those. I don't know how many boxes there are on the green sheet, but make sure you tick the one for Mary Jane Liddicoat because, well, clearly she's spying for somebody, probably Barbara O'Neill, I'd say at this stage. Mary Jane, SpyMaster extraordinaire, welcome back to the Voice of Freedom.
Thank you very much for having me out.
What extraordinary allegations have been thrown at you? And these aren't new. Some of these things came at me, I don't know, 18 months ago or more, but they've resurfaced just prior to Easter, and we were laughing about it over Easter and thought, well, hang on, let's talk about it and have a bit of a giggle. So most of these allegations stem from your previous work history. You know, at the moment you work and have done for some time, as long as I've known you, for Freedom Financial Solutions, and you don't work for them so much now as run the bloody joint. So it's like a full-time job. It is a full-time job. It's probably closer to 3 full-time jobs. But clearly, if you're a spy master, you're able to juggle these things. You have your minions to do what you do. How does it all work? So how does it all start out? They say that you're a spy because you worked at DFAT. So was this always your goal, Mary Jane?
Well, I have to
A tiny
confess, it actually probably goes back to my grandmother, whose name is also M for Mary, Mary Liddycoat. And Mary Liddycoat, if she, if they'd
That's a
found her
double.
and dug fast enough, they would have found that there's a photograph of her with Prime Minister Whitlam, Gough Whitlam, in Yass, where her cover was that she founded the Senior Citizens Club in Yass,
Wow.
undercover as a sister of the hospital. But of course, we know that M for Mary, Mary Jane, stands for M, the SpyMaster extraordinaire. So that I think is where my family legacy comes from. I do want to put a little caveat on tonight. Of course, any information you hear tonight is purely, well, true or not true. Who can
And
tell?
it and this show may self-destruct 5 seconds after you finish viewing it. It may. Oh, I'm sorry, different kind of spice. I'm getting my spy genres mixed up there. All right, Mary Jane, let's dispel these rumors once and for all. When you were a little girl, did you want to be Jill Bond? Did you go straight into working for DFAT? Did you get called out of high school because they could immediately smell your, I don't know,
Je ne sais
spine?
quoi.
Yeah, all right.
Because of course we're got lots of languages up our sleeves. Look, and here's the thing: if I say something, people are going to immediately believe I'm lying. So I'm just going to tell you some of my history. So no,
Yeah.
the answer is no. What I did have an interest for when I was a little girl was languages, and I think languages is pretty much pattern recognition. So and learning a language, any child can learn a language. You don't need a brain. You just have to be able to copy what people say. So I had an interest in languages. So when I finished high school, I went to Japan and learnt Japanese and did, went to Sydney Uni, did Japanese literature, etc., etc. And that was the first time I'd come across the concept of foreign affairs and trade. They actually came around to our university to try and recruit people who were studying Japanese. And this is at the peak of the Japanese boom in the 80s. And
Oh, yeah.
it's a funny story because I thought, oh, that sounds kind of fun, a good job having struggled through university and so on. So I went to their offices back in the day, got the bits of paper, and they just introduced a rule where you had to spend the first 2 years of any time with DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, in Canberra. You couldn't go overseas. And I went, oh, well, I don't want to do that. So I didn't apply, and I went to Tokyo. I went to Japan. Where I was an interpreter and a translator, and then ended up being an account manager for a company, publishing company run by an Australian guy, actually. And through that, I got a job with the Australian Embassy in Tokyo. And I don't know if the Trolls have got, I mean, my PR agency, also known as the Trolls, have got this
Indeed.
picture, but there is a photograph of me and Paul Keating. So perhaps that's my first entree into where they recruited me. So what I was doing was it was promoting Australia in Japan, and created this architecture where anybody, like if you're an artist or if you're a dancer or whatever you are, you could come in under the umbrella of the embassy promotion called Celebrate Australia in 1993. And we would give you some promotional material. We'd put you in the catalogue. We'd give you the stamp of, Australian government promotion. We may give you 1 or 2 air tickets, don't know. And that's when I started working with the Australian government.
Yeah,
As a
right. So from there, you wound up in Korea. You learnt Korean as well,
Yep,
and somewhere in your history, you learned Arabic,
I know,
or
right?
wrote at least wrote a conversational book on conversational Arabic. Um, but like you say, you've got a love of languages, and I don't find that strange. I know a farmer who has, I think it's like a $30 million property. He speaks 8 languages and has never been off the property.
Wow.
He can speak 8 languages fluently.
What,
He
cow?
just loves.
Chicken? No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's the Doctor Doolittle spy, of course. So
Yeah, well, yeah, go on.
you progressed. You got away from the Aussie businessman in Tokyo. The embassy saw something in you in Tokyo that let you jump the queue, obviously. And did you have to come back to Australia?
No, they didn't actually. I mean, here I am at the end of my contract saying, hello, I've just done this amazing stuff. Like it was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got these databases and I've got all these people. You don't want to hire me? Really? You don't want to hire me? No, no queue jumping. I had to apply for a job. And I did applied, and I came. That's when I moved to Canberra. I became the director of the Australia-Japan Foundation, which was a statutory authority where you had a couple of $1 million that we would then provide to Australians and sometimes Japanese who wanted to strengthen the relationships between Australia and Japan at a cultural level, so education, culture, that sort of thing. So I did that.
Given the time frame, this was sort of mid-80s. So
no,
if you
that's
were spying,
1994. 1994.
oh, that's 94. Oh, okay. So while you were in Japan in the mid-80s, then you would have been spying all the new technology like CDs, video discs, and that sort of stuff.
I was one of the first that had those Walkman with the what do you call it, the CDs. And I was walking around Paris because that's where you have to go sometimes. I was walking around Paris and it kept jumping, and it's like, this is a piece of rubbish. You've got a CD player and you're walking and it keeps jumping. It's rubbish. Anyway, so yes, I was spying that stuff. But look, honestly, it is fascinating that people think I'm a spy because, number one, I speak Japanese, met a couple of people at the embassy. Number two, I was in Damascus, in Cairo and Damascus in the late 90s. And I did write a book, and I've got a hard copy there on the bookshelf behind me, called Syrian Colloquial Arabic Functional Course. I wrote the textbook that I wanted to use to learn Arabic based on the methodology I'd used in Japan. So it was a one of a kind. And look, here's a snippet. In Arabic, all the textbooks are written from the male point of view because you've got words that have masculine, and then if you're a woman, you have to change them a bit, but no one ever focuses on the woman. So I wrote the textbook in reverse. I used it from a female protagonist point of view. So all the words you learn first are the female endings. And if you're a male, you just chop a bit off. That's interesting in this day and age. But anyway, so I did that. So I was in Damascus. So there you go. I've got Japanese, Arabic.
I can't imagine you were the #1 best-selling book in Damascus at any time with putting the
So
women
there you
first.
go. That's when the British Council connection comes in, because everybody knows that the British Council, and this is what my famous promoters, i.e. the trolls, say, is because I work for the British Council, which I didn't work for them. I pitched them an idea. Here's my trial textbook. Can I set up a brand new course to help native English speakers learn to speak Syrian colloquial Arabic? I went, oh, yeah, I guess so. That's not going to cost us anything. So we set it up and ran it there. So that's my, for 6 weeks we did it, my connection with the British Council. But it was actually hugely popular. And in fact, it's still used by universities around, around the world. SOAS, which is the School of Oriental and Asian Studies, Oriental and African Studies in London, they regularly contact me and say, can we have another discount code, please? Because I give them a bit of a discount to students. Yeah. No, it's a revolutionary textbook used by universities. And here we go, spies, military and diplomatic corps around the world.
Ah, so you're programming people.
I am. And helping them. It's also used by the humanitarian aid workers in Palestine.
Well, actually, in getting ready for this, I did read one of the troll reports that said that you had studied access consciousness at some stage.
Oh, yes. So that's, one of those modalities where it teaches you how to ask questions. So instead of, and this was good, I did it for quite a while and I was a facilitator, but what I loved about it was it took you out of anywhere you decided to come to a conclusion. So, I mean, how many times do you want to create change, but you can't because, oh, Carl, apparently you're flirting with me. No, we're mates, Lulu. Oh, Lulu called me. She said, how did I get so cooked before as well? But anyway, you come to a conclusion about something, and as soon as you come to a conclusion, the energy stops and there's no more creation or change can happen. So to get yourself out of that, instead of finding an answer in something, you ask a question about it. And I love that. Yeah. It's just asking a question, and it opens your mind and it creates that curiosity, because there's no one more powerful than an open-minded person who's curious.
Well, let's get on to a few more of the open-minded people, curious analogies. This election's got a little under 2 weeks left to run. Clearly, we've had a couple of announcements about preferences and since we last spoke and your announcement to run. Now, Heart Party preferences were pretty clearly, known and the way they're going to go. related to each seat that candidates are standing in. But essentially, every Freedom Party is preferencing every other Freedom Party above any of the uni parties or the Teals or the hangers on, the Greens and all that sort of stuff. We have had a couple of shocks with One Nation purportedly supporting Labor above Freedom Party somewhere else, but Malcolm's come out today and said that isn't the case. So can you just reiterate, where do you stand with the Heart Party at the moment with your preferences? You're not preferencing the uni parties in any way, shape or form?
Well, so no, so no, the Heart Party generally is not. In Canberra, we have very little choice. We've got, in my electorate, there are 6 candidates, and there's me out here like a shag on a rock, and there's everybody else over there in the hut. And so, for me personally, I preference the independent, and then there is almost no choice. They're all
Yeah.
the uni party. Even the Animal
Yep.
Justice Party apparently is very antithesis of what the Heart Party represents. So I actually put them third last. Greens was second last, and Labor was last. So that's them. Then there's me, the independent, and I got to confess, I've forgotten who the third one was. There you go. Maybe there's 5 of us.
How are you finding it? How are you finding it out there on the hustings, so to speak? A lot of people, we talk on this program a lot about trying to encourage people to stand up, and I certainly know of 2 or 3 people who've taken the advice of the show at certain different levels, with local council, with state and federal politics. What's it like running in a federal campaign for you?
Oh, it's tough going, and it depends on your electorate. But I've got to say, this time, actually, Lulu Space Cadet, yeah, she is, says vote for Heart is a vote for the LNP. I don't really know what that means, but we're not preferencing the LNP. A vote for the Heart for the Party is a vote for your independent free voice. But Lulu loves stirring things up. Here we go. So votes will flow to the LNP. Well, yeah. So they're going to flow to the LNP as opposed to the Labor Party. My point of view on that is change is good. At the moment, Labor is steamrolling its way through. So the more you can sort of poke the bear and even create any change, the better. But I'll tell you what, if everybody here actually voted for a like-minded party, one that actually values freedom, values a Bill of Human Rights, and values, well, democracy, values a voice, the Australian men and women, and stopped fighting with each other, and we know who the trolls are because they're the ones that just fight with you, they might stand a chance. But anyway, so what's it like? It's tough. It's like this. It's like you're in here, you've got trolls everywhere. In fact, we have this lovely bus driver who is now actually on holidays for 2 weeks, unfortunately, but he's been driving around finding where our core flutes, our signs, have been knocked down. No one else has been knocked down, just ours. And today he was on holiday and he was driving around in his car actually helping hammer them in. And he said he did one, went around the corner, came back, it had been knocked over, and he saw a car driving away, a ute with New South Wales license plates driving away from exactly where it had been knocked down. So we have a feeling this time Heart Party is being really targeted. And I suspect there might even be some money behind it. That's my sense. Last time when we were the Informed Medical Options Party, we didn't experience such an attack. And I think that's because the name was enough to kind of make people think, I don't know. The Heart Party is such an invitation. What's not to like? You look at the policies, what's not to like? We are an invitation. So I have a feeling that somebody somewhere is feeling a little bit threatened by that invitation. But what's it like this time? This time we've actually had some volunteers contact us without us being already part of the community. And some of them have, well, one I met this afternoon when I went and dropped some stuff off to him. I said, so how did you find out about us? And he said, through some of the groups I'm in, vaccine injured groups. I said, so someone's vaccine injured in your family? He said, yes, he is. Since 2021, and he's in a lawsuit against his employer. So I think this time there is definitely more people who are not as closed-minded, because frankly, if you're not willing to consider a question consider a point of view that's different to yours, you've got a closed mind. Like, I'll listen to
I
anybody
agree.
about
I agree, 100%. And while you've got a truck driver knocking things over, I think Cass Smith has a secret admirer because I've been putting up some posters for her in and around Queensland, and only the ones with her face on them are going missing.
same as me. Same
Oh,
as me. Yes, and it's interesting because we'll put 2 signs up, one with words and one with a face, and at 3 different locations, the face one has gone completely. It hasn't fallen over. It's not in the bushes over there. It's gone. So my husband was
I,
making a joke saying, "Oh, you've got a fan." So this may be a more widely coordinated effort because that's a pattern.
I think you're quite right. We can compare notes because I can show you the 2 gentlemen that took at least 2 of those signs. So
Oh, okay.
um, they could be having a bad day with the AEC in the not too distant future.
Oh,
But I would have thought that, well, in Canberra particularly, it's a very hard fought battle because in your situation with the Heart Party, everybody who you can potentially think of as a vote for you works for one of the uni parties or is a lobbyist for one of the others.
yeah, Canberra's tough. But look, the reason that we do this is because not everybody is as close-minded or as paid, perhaps, as Miss Space Cadet, who's you're getting your bang for your buck there. Whoever's paying Miss Space Cadet,
My
um,
word, she is. She's
because
got no idea. We might let her cool down for a minute. Um, yeah, she's getting a little carried away.
and look,
Um,
that's the beauty. When you try to shut a conversation down, it exposes who you are. And this is why we would have no problem having any discussion with anybody about any topic because it's like we want to hear your ideas. But as soon as someone says, no, it's decided, the science is decided or this is decided or we all agree on this, it's like, well, actually, what if I disagree? And I had some nice university students from the ANU email me and probably all the other candidates today saying they're doing a research project into the recent government, the state government legislations to prevent protests, just in case they're encouraging extremism. And what did we think of it?
mm,
And the bottom
yeah,
line is, if you do not allow protests against the government, if you don't allow a voice to disagree with the ruling power, you do not have democracy. There is no democracy. That is
no,
a
that's right.
fundamental underpinning of democracy. So you either have it and you allow those voices to speak. Now, it's the idiot voices are going to no one's going to, people with common sense, they're going to go, ha, ha, yeah, that's just ridiculous. We'll ignore you and we'll go over here to talk to the grown-ups. But as soon
Mm,
as you start saying, oh, no, you can't say that, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and of course,
mm,
malinformation, I mean, misinformation is where you may have made a mistake in the facts and you're sharing it and it's not helpful. Disinformation is where you are sharing something and it's actually wrong. So that's
yep.
wrong, not helpful. The malinformation is where you're sharing the truth, but it's not the truth according to the powers that be of the time. And that's malinformation, and that's the most
Yeah.
dangerous kind, where you're sharing the truth, but as soon as a power that be wants to shut you down, but it's the truth, and we all know what's true. I know what's true for me, and that's that
Mm,
I'm not a spy.
yeah.
But anyway, and I've got to ask, who, like this, the most recent Spygate literature claims that I'm not just a low-level spy. I'm actually the M. I'm controlling all the
Yes.
infiltration from the freedom movement.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
I can.
why am I
But the
then out on the hustings banging in core flutes? I mean, this is insane.
yeah. Well, that's your cover, don't you know? I
I,
mean, you know, you've got to be out looking like a normal pleb. But clearly, and while I haven't been to the new office, I have been to the old office, and you girls must have secreted your secret little ops room somewhere because I thought I'd been into every office in that building. And I never saw a little control room where you could manipulate people from behind the scenes.
Well, you can.
Fern wants
Yep.
to know who backs Heart. What is
You mean
Heart
who
all
pays
about?
for it? Where's the funding come from? Well,
Well, I think she just who's behind it. So Michael O'Neill is the head of the Heart Party, and of course you might know his wife Barbara. But you go ahead.
yeah. No. Well, who pays for Heart? It's funded through memberships, and there was a little bit of fundraising done at the end of last year when Barbara O'Neill came out to support her husband's launch of the Heart Party, and there was a little bit of money raised. So that's where we can get the branding and the call floats and so on. Last election, we got no funding at all. The candidates paid themselves $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to pay for everything that needed to be done. And you may not know, but when you register as a candidate, you have to pay $2,000 for that Australian Electoral Commission, the AEC. And then on top of that, there's the marketing stuff and so on and so on. So at this time, luckily, there was a little bit of fundraising done, as I said, and so that's where it's coming from. But in general, Heart Party runs on the smell of an oily rag. Michael O'Neill is the founder. He's been doing this since 2016. Mainly primarily in New South Wales, but the last election was big. We had a lot of candidates. This election, we've gone in with an alliance with like-mindeds. So in different states, there are slightly different alliances. In Queensland, it's with the Gap Party. But basically, we're saying, look, like-mindeds, vote for them. Libertarians, People's First, Jared Rennick's people, One Nation, whatever it is, if they've got something that aligns with our policy and doesn't shut us down, that's about freedom of human rights, freedom of health, freedom of bodily autonomy, and a better go for the average Australian man or woman, an affordable Australia, less tax, that sort of thing. Vote for whoever is in that little group. So we made an alliance. So this time, because of the alliance, we agreed not to run candidates in the same electorate. So there's no competition here in Canberra, but in some places, so Cass Smith, for example, was hoping to be the candidate in her local House of Representatives electorate, but I think, I can't remember if it was the People's First, or the People's First already had a candidate there, so she wasn't going to go up against them. So she's actually number 2 on the Gap Party ticket now for the Senate. So by this time, we only have, I think, 9 or 10 candidates, because by the time we got to selecting, most of the electorates where we have support had already been taken up by Libertarians or People's First or the like Gap or the like.
You haven't been hacked or infiltrated like Trumpet of Patriots. I saw a press release from Clive today saying that their how to vote cards had been hacked, probably somewhere between them being created and being sent to the printers, because by the look of it, many thousands of them have to be trashed because they've preference Labor in quite high positions, as I understand it.
Well, I'm assuming that's going to be pretty easy to track down and find out who did it. So whoever actually did it's going to be in a bit of a, because that's actually interfering with the electoral process. And people don't know, if you knock stuff down, if you interfere with the electoral process, that's actually a punishable offence. Now, I know most people here think, police law, whatever. I agree. But still, the ones that are more likely to be doing it are going to be in the dead legal system people, the Libs and the Labors and the Teals, and they're probably going to be scared of the law. So, don't interfere.
Don't interfere. Don't touch them. And like was it a Teal in Melbourne whose husband in Kooyong, I think, was running around taking down the opposition's how to vote boards there too. So yes, look, it's a very serious, and you can go to jail for it. For taking down or defacing a sign, you could possibly go to jail for it. So, take your emotions out of it when you're driving down the road. And if you see a face that you don't want to vote for, then hold your finger up at it as you drive past, but don't drive over the sign.
I honestly don't think it's the average punter. I think it is a concerted, coordinated and paid for event. Much like, look, I don't have a problem with people suggesting that someone's paid opposition, because there's definitely paid opposition. But what I do invite everyone to consider is when somebody else is pointing at someone, don't just believe them. have a think yourself. Okay, well, who is this person really? And would they really go to all this trouble? And do they have any money? Often it's the ones with lots and lots of money behind them. Maybe the
Well,
paid
that's
opposition.
sort of how the paid part of the paid opposition comes out, doesn't it? You can sort of see their lifestyle going through the roof. You don't see too many of them living on a bus on the side of a hill with no power. So,
Yeah, no, it does suck for Clive Fern. Yeah, but that's actually interesting. And
mm,
sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. And so
indeed,
possibly, I think Australia's going to have to get a lot worse before the average punter, decides to actually take a stand. I don't think we're going to be seeing a revolution, or what's the word? Not a revolution, but a restoration anytime soon, until people really, really see that things have just gotten too bad. It's too comfy here. The weather's too good, even in Canberra. You've got your footy, you've got the entertainment on loop.
yeah.
Uh,
The circus goes on, and there's beautiful bread. You've just got to be able to afford the fiat currency to go and pay for it. But bread and circuses are still rig de jour here, and the people, for whatever reason, are lapping it up. Even over the Easter break, caught up with my family, and out of nowhere, my sister decides to lecture me on the fact that there is nothing like this, nothing called a SQV trust. It never existed. Started launching in a constitutional argument, one that she really doesn't understand. And it just reminded me that we are such a long way from, this enlightenment that we all need. Some of us aren't a lot closer to it than many others. But I think it's through groups like the Heart Party and Barbara in what she does with her educating outside of Australia, because she's certainly not allowed to do it inside. These are the things that we would be better focusing on to become better human beings, to become less selfish, to become more open, more thoughtful of others, and certainly much more considerate of consequences for the actions that we take. Do you think?
yeah, look, and it's throughout mainstream media, and it's just I've spent some time out of Australia. And every time I came back, I was quite shocked at how the vibration of the conversations had become more and more negative and less forgiving and more strident, and want people wanting to make someone wrong rather than kind of have a nice conversation where you could both learn something. And that's, I see, in all the sort of programming on the boxes. That's become more and more acceptable. When I was growing up, maybe when you were growing up, you should be nice. That's what it was. Be nice and polite. Well, nice and
Yeah.
polite is very, very hard. And it's interesting because when you go anywhere now and you see those signs, you must be respectful, and bad behavior won't be tolerated. We never had those. Never
No.
had those. So to me, we're in an inverted society. They're actually saying what they don't want us to have. They're riling people up by telling people, sit down and be quiet. I mean, a sign like
Yeah.
that, it's like, oh, that's common sense. They're trying to remove any sense of common sense and human decency. So it's probably going to get a lot worse. Now, I was going to say something I had forgotten, but anyway. So yes. Oh, what I was going to say was, why do we do it? Like, why am I doing it here in Canberra when I've
Yeah.
got zero chance? No, I've got 100% chance. But anyway, and it's
You've got a
that
100% chance and a less than 50% reality.
it's because it's that chance to get a bit of paper or get an idea, get a sentence, get a word into somebody else's environment. Like here in Canberra, if I stood on the street, just Mary Jane, no backing of the election, trying to share a bit of information, everyone would run a mile. But because I'm under the auspices of the election, we can even put flyers in no junk mail letterboxes. That's actually allowed under the Australia
Right.
Post has said that is legal. Democracy is not to be blocked by anybody. So putting a
Right.
flyer in a no junk mail letterbox is allowed. And so that's the one chance to get a little bit of information somewhere where it may not have reached before. And that's why I'm doing it. And so, anyone here also on the chat can, one little tiny step and you never know what ripple in the pond you might make. You're doing
Yeah.
one thing that might have a knock-on effect to somebody else and somebody else. Above all, I want to create some form of change for my kids in the future, and we have to live in hope.
Well, knowing your kids and your passion for languages, do they speak Indian? Question here is, where do you stand on immigration?
So, well, I mean, we're all immigrants. Everybody here is an immigrant, except for the First Nations people. So it's where you have a dominant culture so where you have a culture. So our original Australian culture is whatever you've decided that is. I don't know, sausages on the bloody barbecue or football or whatever, whatever the current Australian culture is. That's fine. If you have immigration, they bring huge amounts of skills, huge amounts of new ideas. But it's where you have an overwhelming amount suddenly come in without the infrastructure, without the educational programs and so on. I mean, my husband's Korean, right? So when
Yep.
he came with me to Australia in 2000, he did an English language course at CIT, the TAFE equivalent. So,
Yep.
we've got a smaller amount, but the problem at the moment is, number one, the infrastructure. The housing crisis is putting pressure on a lot of everyday Aussies, because we've got a lot of international students, we've got a lot of immigrants who are coming in, and some of them are quite wealthy and taking up those, or backed by wealthy people. So they're taking up the available housing, which leaves a lot of Australians homeless. What's that a question? That's not a question of immigration. That's a question of, why the hell can't we build houses faster here without all the bloody red tape? So
Yep.
less tape is my answer to that one. And then in terms of the mix, I think the number, I don't know, I haven't really looked at the numbers. The numbers seem to be increasing all the time. Do we have a better formula for numbers? Do we need this many people now? They're all great questions. I don't have an answer for you. The policy that we're going into this election is with, we have questions. We have a lot of questions. Australia
Yeah.
is broken. Australia is not getting better. It's a downward spiral. If anyone thinks it's not, then I don't know where you've
Yeah.
been living for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So we have questions. Why, after spending billions and billions and billions and throwing billions of dollars at all these problems we've got, why is it just getting worse? So rather than having an answer for anything, we want transparency. We want to remove all the sort of fake answers and get to the nub of the problem, and recreate it from scratch.
Sure. Mary Jane, many people, hopefully some people watching this program, are immigrants, are people who've come here in the last 4 to 10 years. Now, since 2022, the last federal election, the voting population of Australia has grown by 870,000. A lot of those people have come through the wide open immigration policies of the Labor Party. And with their fast-tracked immigration status and becoming Australian citizens, being given the right to vote here in Australia, some may feel there is some obligation to vote for the party that helped them get to this country and took all their money at the door on the way through. What does the Heart Party offer to those 870,000 new voters since 2022 that you would encourage them to consider giving their vote to you?
Well, if you're looking at the Labor's policies overall, it's more control. And a lot of people, as economic, especially, refugees or humanitarian immigrants or economic immigrants, they're coming to Australia for a reason, because they perceive Australia to be better than where they left. Now, what needs to be made, what we need to help them see is that unless they and we move very quickly, the levels of freedom and choice that we are afforded now are going to rapidly decline. And you're right, it's very hard to get that message across, especially a lot of them come as families, and English is not necessary. I mean, like my husband, English is not
Yeah.
his first language. It's hard to get that message through. So then you rely on, good representatives in their communities to get that message through. But you know what messages get in? Money talks. Money's always the one that's talking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sadly,
so
that is the case. And we never seem to have enough of it to make a difference. Where our voices, we can't afford the loudest megaphones, obviously. So,
Well, look, word of mouth, and it's a self-educational program. If you think something is not right, all you need to do is start learning a little bit more, thinking, keeping an open mind, asking those hard questions. I mean, we've all done it. We've all written to our politicians saying, you know, this is not right. Can you fix it? And the more you get your head smashed against a brick wall, the more you'll turn into someone like me, which is like, oh my God, they are not going to change it. The only one that can create any change in my life is me.
yep,
So, I mean, how many people sit around all day saying, oh, you should do something, you should do something, they should do something? Well, they're not going to do it for you. You're the only one that can make the change in your life. So, and that's why
100%.
Kath and I and others stand up, because it's like, well, we can't tell other people to do anything. We're the only ones that can make the change in our lives. So we've got to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you, MJ, Mary Jane, for coming on tonight. Of course, one of your other spies that you look after, Michael Sims, pass on my best to him. I was going to call him Bondi, but I thought that might have been a bit rude. But I hope we've managed to put a few of these SpyMaster stories to rest.
No, look, and what I've got to say is I've got to say to them, thank you so much. I've written a 400-page textbook with 180 minutes of recorded sound that is used by universities around the world. I've mastered Japanese, Arabic and Korean, and interpreted for senior level government officials. I've done so many things, and nobody pays me the slightest of attention. So I've got to thank the trolls.
You've never been so famous. Congratulations. All right.
Okay,
have a lovely night. Well, I know you've had a big day, so thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
No
Bye.
Mary Jane Liddickett, if you are in the ACT, consider giving your vote to the Heart Party and voting for Mary Jane. Obviously, it's going to be a battle for her to get elected in the lower house in Canberra, but God love her for trying, and that's exactly what we need, people who get in there and try. Ads, good advice to Lulu. Lulu's trying to either be funny or a smart ass and doesn't seem to qualify on either, and certainly doesn't qualify as smart as far as I can tell. But anyway, we won't bother talking to them too much. I started a couple of comments back through here. Thank you, Aussie Sue. God love you. Yes, do remember to like and share, folks. If you are watching, please. It does help the algorithm, and if you want to drop a comment, that also helps as well. Oh, we talked about the artwork earlier with the Wild Woman. Hello, Sandy K. I hope you are feeling better. Pneumonia is not a pleasant thing. I know you're planning to be on the road in the not too distant future, so I'm going to have to be calling you in the next day or three to find out how life, the universe, and everything goes with you. Phil Cooker, I hope you are feeling better, brother. And for those folks who are willing to add another name to the prayer list, please put Phil in your prayers. He's a bit under the weather at this point in time and could use our thoughts and prayers. And if you can add him to yours, I would greatly appreciate it. The lovely Rachel in Taswegia land has met up with the lovely Susan in Tasmania as well. Susan's off to the EES Centre in Tassie. Now, if you're not familiar with EES technology, and I've got to admit I wasn't until a conversation a few days ago, I've done some investigation on it myself, and Susan actually sent me an email today saying that she was going off to the EES Centre in Tassie. I think it's in the next few days or so. Funnily enough, when I got your email, I'd only just got off the phone from a lovely lady named Vivian, who runs the centre in Brisbane. And we had a great half-hour-long conversation about how this scalar system works. So you might see something in the near future about that. I might shuffle myself off to go and see if it has any effect on me. But it is certainly a very interesting frequency-based healing methodology. And, like everything, I guess there's no guarantees in life. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. I guess it's a bit like the X39 patches, which you see crawling across the bottom of the screen. Thankfully, particularly with the X39s, we seem to be having more positive reaction than negative or no reaction at all. We're not getting any negative reactions from the patches, put it that way. It either works for you or it doesn't. Now, I sent some of these patches off to Guru a week or so ago, and I haven't caught up with him in that time, so I'll be interested to hear whether or not they've had any effect on his jaw at all. But I know early days he was feeling, and if anybody who's had one of these patches and knows, should have put my phone on mute, do apologize. Now it's on mute. Yeah, anybody who's tried an X39 patch will know that if you get a sort of a tingling feeling in the part that's ailing or aching you, that's the patch going to work. And he said he could feel that working in his jaw. So with a bit of luck, we've had, I think I sent him about a week's worth. So with a bit of luck, he will be coming to the end of that. And I've ordered more for him. So hopefully we'll be able to make an imprint where others have not. But prayers for Guru too, as he continues to go through the shit that is happening in his life with that horrible thing on his lip. Now, what else do I have to share with you very quickly? I think there were a couple of things. There is a party you should be very careful of. It's called Australia's Voice. This is actually the Muslim party. I think I'm probably the only way of really describing it. It is the Muslim party. They are actively seeking and do have a number of people running under this. You may remember this Fatima Payman from the Labor Party until they threw her out. I think she was with the Labor Party in the Senate. If not, she was with the other mob. At any rate, she decided to stand up for something they didn't believe in, and they threw her out. She's decided to stand and start this Australia's Voice party. However, it does seem to be very, 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 very Muslim-centric. So sort of Australia's Muslim Voice might be a more apt name for it. All I would suggest is do your research on that one, and if it does pop up, go and have a look at where their preferences are going, because that, for me, will prove to be the interesting thing. One of the talking points of this election is energy policy for both the uniparties in particular. Now, of course, we know the Greens and the Labor morons seem to think that windmills and solar power are the way of the future. The only people who really believe that those industries will work without government subsidies, without our money paying for it through government. Our money already subsidizes so much to do with the solar industry. All that money you were going to get back for putting money back into the grid, nah. How'd that work out for you? No, what you have been doing is subsidizing those huge solar farms instead. But how's that working out for you? Well, I guess for the people who own the solar farms, it's working out pretty bloody well. But if they were left to stand on their own 2 feet without public money propping them up, then these things would be falling over in the paddocks they are being put up in within 2 years, because nobody's maintaining them, or nobody would be maintaining them, and they're in windy places. Oh yes, but that creates a environmental issue. Well, I think every cent of money that the Greens raise for the election should be taken off them and put to work cleaning up this filth that is across our landscape. Or would it hurt more to plough it into nuclear power stations? Maybe it would. But then the media is still going to tell you lies about nuclear power stations. Now, this came off the Sky News website, and they're going to say just, nuclear energy, nearly twice as cost effective as offshore wind. Well, there's a surprise. But what are they showing you? Well, they are showing you 4 cooling towers from an electricity supply generation, or what we used to call power stations. They are cooling towers. At the bottom of those towers are open. Okay, you can actually walk in underneath them. There's a huge pond at the bottom of it where hot water comes up and it evaporates, which is what you are seeing coming out the top, a steam. That is all you are seeing. But for years, our mainstream media have been showing pictures like this when they're talking about pollution. Now, maybe, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, Sky News here, subliminally trying to tell us that all we are putting into the air by using nuclear power is a bit of water vapor, because that's all that goes back into the environment. Water vapor. But they'll keep telling you these little stories, and it's starting to annoy me, if I'm honest. Vince, I was speaking to a little earlier tonight. He says it's getting bloody cold in his part of South Australia. They've just had a huge party weekend in Mannum. The Easter weekend along the Murray River there is quite large, but it's a bit chilly. And he says, I had to wear my Voice of Freedom wind cheater. And he said, we've had a few orders, but we need a few more so that we can actually put an order in to get these wind cheaters made for winter, which is coming up very soon, folks. It is getting quite chilly. And in fact, even the nights here, I'm back under a doona and rugging up at night because it's getting chilly. It's, 16, 14 degrees it was the other night. And this morning I woke up to fog everywhere until about 8:30. So, yep, winter is on the way. And if you want to be warm, a Voice of Freedom or an FBN wind cheater, I have my red one just sitting over here, which I will be donning as soon as I get out off the show. They are so warm. They are beautifully, beautifully made. Very, very, very warm indeed. And I'm fussy about warmness. You can ask Black Sheep. I will not buy a flannelette shirt on the mainland of Australia anymore. I'm going to send him money and get him to send me the ones they get in Tasmania in winter, because I bought, I think, 4 of them. We managed to find a shop on the way to the airport when I was down there. And I think I bought 4 of them. I have worn them to death. They are just the warmest shirts in winter, and not like the flannelette you get in Queensland. I'll give you the drum, folks. So at any rate, if you want to stay warm, then please go to VOFHQ. Well, actually, no, go to merch.vofhq.com and have a look. Vince has put an awful lot of work into the T-shirts as well. There are something like 192 different colors and versions and things you can choose. And if you want to get a Land of the Fee wind cheater, just let us know. We don't have the graphic up for that, but email me, Carl at VOFHQ or Vince at VOFHQ.com, and we'll endeavor to get that graphic made up so that you can order that if you want a Land of the Fee. And God knows, aren't they adding more fees every day? The government, well, the uni parties, some are saying they're going to take away some of those fees. Some people will be stupid enough to believe that is the case. Sadly. I hope that isn't you. I do hope that over the course of the next little while, you will educate yourself about how the system works. And if you intend on voting, and, all power to you if that's what you intend on doing, then understand how the preference system works and really make your vote count, right? Really make it count. The preferential system, particularly for the Senate, will keep your vote alive right down to the very end. And if you can keep it alive to the very end, the odds are at the end of the count, we are going to have a magnificent group of people that will provide Senate oversight for the corporate corruption coming out of the lower house. I think that is extremely important. So if we can make this the lowest voter turnout for the uniparties in the history of voting in this country, I think we are going to be sending a great message to them. Whether or not they choose to listen, well, that's a whole other ballgame.
Hi, are you passionate about supporting independent media and social events? Voice of Freedom is dedicated to bringing you the latest happenings and things that matter. But we can't do it without your help. By donating, sponsoring, or becoming a member, you're not just supporting our mission. You're joining a community that values transparency and engagement. Your contributions allow us to continue producing high-quality content that informs and inspires. Visit VOFHQ.com to make a donation or explore sponsorship or membership opportunities. You can even donate using crypto. Together, we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard as we continue to create a vibrant platform for social change. Go to VOFHQ.com. Help us to help you by joining us and making a difference today.
We certainly can't do it without you, folks. Certainly can't do it without you. So if you're feeling the winter wind upon you already, then get yourself a Voice of Freedom wind sheeter or an FBN wind sheeter. Speaking of FBN, going to start putting a bit of new content up there. Vince is going to start a bit of a chat too. It's going to be called Real Talk with Vince. I didn't come up with the theme or the name. Real Talk with Vince, coming soon to FBN, where he's going to chat with, just about anybody who's up for a chat, really. But I think in the next couple of weeks, you'll see him focus pretty heavily on local politicians throughout the South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland area. And they will just be little informal sort of chats. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Vince can do with that. Good luck to him. And there'll be more of that as he progresses his way around the state. In fact, I might encourage him to go down and talk to some of those houseboat manufacturers on the river at Manham and see whether or not we can't help them in some way or shape or form. We'd have to take one for a test drive. Just saying. Of course, I wonder, I'm sure there would be. If you're going to take a houseboat, like a riverboat, for a test drive, how many dickheads do you think there are on the river?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!